All right, so here's the thing about the new criticism. Capital N, capital C is a school of thought. Um, the study of English literature, or literature in English, to include American stuff too, and stuff written by people who were colonized by the British, um, was not something that had been taught in universities until the late 19th century. You didn't teach Shakespeare and Chaucer. You taught the ancient Greek and Roman classics, and people started learning Latin and Greek in their equivalent of elementary school, right? You read the English stuff on your own because it was part of your education as a good citizen. Well, for a number of reasons, for our shorthand, the fact that people from the working class and women who had not been trained in Latin and Greek were going to universities, who hadn't gone to universities before, and people asked, what on earth are we going to be able to teach them if they can't read the Greek and Roman classics? And eventually the idea was spawned, we're going to teach them the best their culture has to offer. This happened for a number of reasons, including trying to make them better voters since they didn't go to church anymore. If you're actually interested in that, email me. I can give you some references on that topic. But that's when English departments started to be formed, and the people who taught in them did not want to do it. It was not something about which to be proud. One of the first great English professors, last name Quiller, Quiller hyphen Couch, Couch, despised the thought of having to teach these people who were not of the same social economic level as the students that he had been trained to teach. And so, this was not a department that held a lot of pride among other academic departments either. And, people would say, oh, you're going to teach them to read. What are you going to do? Sit around and talk about how pretty the language is? Are you going to talk about how it makes you feel warm? And so, sorry, the dudes, the persons, came up with a kind of criticism that they thought would have the character and quality of a science. Something that they could do that people in other academic disciplines could not. That they could teach, and that they alone could teach to justify, in essence, their professional lives. And it included how properly to study literature written in English. One of the things that they did was to come up with a list of fallacies, Fallacy. A fallacy is an example of flawed reasoning. If you take logic, for instance, at Oakton, you will study fallacies because reasoning as a school of philosophy has a number of fallacies that we teach in order to understand how not to think. Things that seem like good reasoning but actually aren't. And they often have Latin terms because they derive from ancient Greek and Roman thinking. And one of them is, for instance, post hoc ergo propter hoc, H-O-C, hoc, which means after this, therefore because of this. It is a fallacy, it goes, to say that something has happened just because this other thing happened before it. So I come home to visit my mother in Tennessee, and I accidentally shut the door really hard, slam, and you hear a glass fall and whoosh on the floor, and my mom comes out and says, Scott, you slammed that door too hard, and now that you broke the glass, you knocked it off the counter. You know better. All right, what she's saying is, first I heard the door slam. I felt the door slam. The whole house shook. And then I heard the glass crash. Therefore, you must have slammed the door so hard that you shook the shelf and the wall of the holds the shelf, and it fell to the ground, and it's your fault that it happened. That's an example of post hoc ergo propter hoc reasoning. But I point out to Mother, she doesn't have a cat, she hates cats. But Mom, wait, look! And we look over, and the cat that she doesn't have is on the shelf. And you know what cats do to stuff on shelves? You can find videos of it all over YouTube. They take their paw and just go and knock it off. It's hilarious, but, you know, it's also troubling because cats are jerks. And I say, hey, you thought that I shut the door too hard and knocked it off, and maybe I did shut the door too hard, and maybe it did make the walls vibrate and make the big slam sound, but it was the cat who knocked off the glass, not me. Yell at the cat. That's a fallacy. So the new critics came up with fallacies as examples of the mistakes people made or make when they read works of literature. Hold that thought.